The War of the Spanish Succession had begun in 1701, with a dispute for control of the balance of power in Europe between the Bourbon King Louis XIV of France and the Habsburg Holy Roman Emperor Leopold I. By 1708, Louis XIV sought revenge for the defeats to the Habsburg Grand Alliance, comprising of states including Great Britain, the Dutch Republic, Prussia and Austria, at the Battle of Blenheim in 1704 and Ramillies in 1706. In May 1708, Louis XIV sent a French army of 85,000 men under the Duke of Burgundy and the Duke of Vendôme into Flanders, reaching the city of Brandalourde, some 15 miles south of Brussels, threatening both Brussels and the nearby city of Leuven, causing Marlborough to seek urgent support from Prince Eugene, who was deployed on the Moselle, while moving his forces a few miles south of Leuven. However, the French forces did not move for more than a month, which allowed Eugene enough time to move his forces and reinforce Marlborough. Then, on July the 5th, the French army unexpectedly and quickly advanced to capture the cities of Bruges and Ghent. The French army now planned to take the city of Oudenarde, a strategically important crossing point over the Scheldt River, which would cut Marlborough's lines of communication with England. However, Marlborough had guessed the French intentions and planned to march to its defence. Force marching his troops towards Oudenarde, Marlborough captured the city of Lessens on July the 10th. Marlborough then ordered Cadogan, the Quartermaster General, to force march 11,000 troops to Oudenarde and to seize and hold the main crossing point across the Scheldt River. On his arrival at Oudenarde the following day, Cadogan secured the town and river crossing. His men began to build additional pontoon bridges to the east of the town to allow the Allied army to cross the Scheldt River more quickly. However, at around 9 o'clock in the morning, some French foragers discovered the Allied presence, and although Cadogan's men captured them, some managed to escape and so were able to raise the alarm and inform Vendôme that Marlborough's men were crossing the Scheldt. On receiving the news of the Allied crossing, Vendôme saw the opportunity to attack them while the bulk of their army had still to cross, and ordered his troops to deploy on the high ground on the eastern side of the Norken River, while sending 7 infantry battalions forward to seize and hold the village of Herne. However, these troops mistakenly seized the village of Ain, which was in a dangerously exposed position. These troops were subsequently attacked and surrounded by Cadogan's troops, resulting in all 7 French battalions suffering heavy losses and surrendering. Meanwhile, Burgundy ordered Vendôme back across to the western side of the Norken River to join the rest of the French force of 85,000 men, while not contesting the Allied crossing and awaiting the expected Allied attack. Meanwhile, the Allies, with a force of 80,000 men, were still crossing the Scheldt River via bridges at Oudenarde or the newly constructed pontoons, and by around 4 o'clock had still not fully deployed, by which time Burgundy had lost patience and advanced his right wing and centre across the Norken. To oppose this threat, Marlborough began to deploy the troops that he had at his disposal. On their right wing, 2 Allied infantry battalions advanced to capture the village of Grindelwald. At around 5:30 in the afternoon, 20 French infantry battalions began an assault on the village, requiring Marlborough to send 12 further Allied infantry battalions as support, resulting in fierce fighting developing for control of the village. As more Allied troops crossed the Scheldt, they were hurriedly deployed on the left of the Allied line, which was extending to the west as more French troops crossed the Norken and joined the right of their battle line, while Eugene deployed his troops to the right of Cadogan, whose troops had to withdraw from Grindelwald. Meanwhile, the Allied cavalry on their right wing launched an attack against the French left, which, despite some initial success, was finally repelled with heavy losses. In the Allied centre and left, infantry on both sides struggled to gain a significant advantage. However, with no further French troops advancing across the Norken River to extend their battle line, Marlborough was able to advance 20 battalions of Allied infantry in a flanking attack against the French right. At around 8:30 on the Allied left, a large force of Allied cavalry, commanded by Marshal Overkirk, performed a wider flanking attack, successfully attacking the French cavalry in their rear. The battle ended with the fall of darkness, which prevented the French retreat towards Ghent turning into a rout. During the Battle of Oudenarde, the French army suffered approximately 14,000 casualties, with 5,000 dead and 9,000 taken prisoner, while the Allies suffered between 3,000 and 5,000 casualties. The following morning, the Allied cavalry resumed their pursuit of the French army, some crossing the French border. Shortly after the battle, the Allies began the siege of the strongly defended fortress at Lille, which fell to the Allies in early December. The Allies then recaptured Bruges and Ghent, forcing the French almost out of the whole of Flanders. While the French commanders blamed one another for the defeat, Oudenarde had once again demonstrated the leadership qualities of Marlborough, especially his abilities for organisational and logistical planning, to react quickly and decisively as the tactical situation developed, and to effectively cooperate with his allies, especially Prince Eugene.